I like country music and have for a long, long time. And in fact, Kim and I often remark, or I remark to her anyway, that a lot of the people I listen to are dead and have been for a long time. I like classic country music for a couple of reasons. I like the harmonies, and I can understand the words. And Jimmy Dean had a song, and it was Big Bad John. You know, Big John, Big John. Anyway, I give you that background so I can tell you the rest of this story. Around our dining room table, when the kids were little, before they could get up and go do whatever they wanted to do, they had to say the books of the Bible. And I didn't know he was going to be here today, but he is, so I'm going to embarrass him. Maybe. I don't know. That's a true story. So Jesse, being the oldest, was the first one to go. And when he was really young, Desiree is laughing. When he was young and he was saying the books of the New Testament, he got to, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, Big Bad John. So today our lesson is going to be on 2nd and 3rd John. But before I start that, last week Luke talked to us about 1 John. And 1 John, I'll get my book open here so I can start in. 1 John was about living in the light. It was about reinforcing a commandment that has always been. It was framed as a new commandment. He talked about not living in this world. He warned about false teachers. Luke talked about John wanting us to live as children of God. He talked about loving one another, and how appropriate this morning that we would sing the love song. That's got to be the Spirit working. We did not talk about what I was talking about, but God fills in the blanks an awful lot of times. 1 John also talks about false prophets, people that don't tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. He reinforces loving each other. He talks about in 1 John, he talks about faith in the Son of God, Jesus, our Savior. And then he concludes. Then we get to 2nd and 3rd John. Now, I'm going to read 2nd and 3rd John. So y'all get your timers out. Okay? This is going to take probably, maybe till, 5 minutes from now. But I'm going to read that. The elder, to the lady chosen by God and to her children, whom I love in the truth, and not only I, but also those who know the truth, because of the truth which lives in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Father's Son, will be with us in truth and love. It has given me great joy to find some of your children walking in the truth, just as the Father commanded us. And now, dear lady, I am not writing you a new commandment, but one we have had from the beginning. I ask that we love one another, and this is love, that we walk in obedience to his commands, as you have heard from the beginning. His command is that you walk in love. I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world, and any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch out for those you do not lose what we have worked for, but that you may be rewarded fully. Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house or welcome them. Anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked work. I have much to write to you, but I do not want to use pen and ink. Instead, I hope to visit and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete. The children of your sister who is chosen by God send their greetings. The elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health, and all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. It gave me great joy when some believers came and testified about your faithfulness to the truth, telling how you continue to walk in it. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. Dear friends, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers and sisters, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church about your love. Please send them on their way in a manner that honors God. It was for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. We ought to therefore show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for truth. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. I have much to write you, but I do not want to do so with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. Peace to you, the Father here. Peace to you. The friends here send their greetings. Greet the friends there by name. So, 1st and 2nd John, two brief letters. 2nd John has 302 words. 1st John has 219 words. How long did it take me to read that? Nobody timed me? 4 minutes. How long? 4 minutes? Reading the Bible every day takes a lot of time, doesn't it? God gives you 24 hours. I'm just suggesting that you might want to set a little time aside to do a little reading. So, both 2nd John, 1st and 2nd John, he seems to realize that people's attention spans are short. And he didn't want to waste paper. Now, there seems to be a little doubt that 2nd and 3rd John were written by John, the beloved apostle of Jesus the Messiah. John was born in approximately 11 AD, and he was thought to live to be 95 to 100 years old. So if you do a little math, John was born when Jesus was about 15, plus or minus. Can't be absolutely sure because they didn't have birth certificates, but that's close. But at this point, John is very, very old. In a time where people lived between 40 and 60 years, John is really old at this point. It seems to me that he is writing to his friends, people he has worked with in the past, and he's talking to them as a father or a grandfather. Now, I was pretty lucky growing up. My grandfather on the farm was 81 when he died. That means I was 11, so I had some time with my grandfather on the farm. And my grandfather on the farm, I remember specifically one time I was out there, and my uncle went to town, and I was left with my grandfather and my grandmother on the farm. And I asked Grandpa, I said, what are we going to do this evening? Now, this was back in the 50s, and they didn't have TV, so we weren't going to watch TV. It was long before the internet, so we weren't going to do that. And so my grandfather's response that evening was, after dinner, he says, well, Mr. Miller, the farmer down the road, is going to come over here after a while, and we're going to sit on the front porch and we're going to spit and whittle. And that's what we did that evening. We just sat on the porch. But the one thing I remember about that particular grandfather is he could spin a yarn, okay? He could tell you some stories. My other grandfather, on the other hand, I remember him being rather to the point, let's just say. If you asked him a question, he was going to give you the answer and no more. And he told you the truth the first time, and he didn't intend on repeating it the second time. So it seems to me that John is sort of repeating himself from 1 John in 2nd and 3rd John. John has a real personal interest in these Christians. In both letters, he calls them friends. In both letters, he identifies himself as the elder. Now, they're probably written to another older gentleman in that congregation that serves as a leader of that congregation. These are home churches. Home churches were the norm in this time, and were for the first couple of centuries, actually. In John 2 and 3, in both books, he expresses a greeting of joy to know that his children are walking in the truth, as the Father has commanded. This is not a new command. This is an old command. John, being Jewish, would have learned this as a child. It goes back to Leviticus 19 and 18. Do not seek revenge or bear grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. However, Jesus reframes this in John 13:34. And Bob, thank you for reading in John this morning before your prayer. It just sets this up. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So must you love one another. John reminds people to love, as you have heard from the beginning. John gives us Jesus' command again to walk in love. In both letters, there are warnings. In John 2, he says to watch out for deceivers of the truth regarding Jesus' coming. His life, his death, and the resurrection and ascension to God the Father. It seems that there were false teachers during this time that were going around saying this about Jesus or that about Jesus or something else about Jesus. And John is just saying, be careful who you hang with. Make sure they're teaching the right stuff. Make sure it's based on true stories about Jesus. He goes ahead and says, be real careful about who you associate with. In those days, hospitality was a big deal. The Jewish world circled around hospitality. They lived out bringing people into their home that were foreigners, travelers, people that just showed up. They felt it was their responsibility as Jews to live that kind of life, that they would take care of people. Love your neighbor as yourself. Somebody shows up in the town square, they were going to be taken care of one way or another. Many, many examples in the Old Testament about stories about people being taken in. John's just reinforcing that in this instance, because there are false teachers out there, you want to be careful about who you're bringing into your house. Because the association shown by bringing someone in is that you agree with them and have something in common with them. And John wants us to be very careful about who we allow in. John 3, he tells us to show hospitality to those working for the Lord. He also says that he's going to hand out a do-better slip to Diotrephes for spreading malicious nonsense and not showing hospitality, and in fact, not allowing others to show hospitality. He's kicking people out of the church for not following his rules. So again, we have to be careful with who we associate with. In both John 2 and 3, John closes with, I've got a lot of stuff to tell you, but I'm going to wait till I come visit with you. I want to talk to you face to face. And in this world of internet messages and things of this nature, I think there's a lesson here for all of us, that when we visit with one another, it's always best to get eyeball to eyeball so that you can see the reactions of what each other is saying, so that you can follow what they're saying for sure. I think a lot of arguments could probably be avoided by doing that. So, in summary, here's some things you might want to take away from John 2 and 3. 1, the truth lives forever. Jesus is the truth. 2, Jesus is with us in truth and love. 3, John is pleased with his children that are walking in the truth. 4, John tells us again to love each other. And that's a theme from the start of the Bible to the end of the Bible, by the way. 5, John cautions us about deceivers of Christ. 6, watch out that we don't lose our beliefs or our faith. 7, we are to extend hospitality to other Christians, especially people that are working in the Word, spreading the Word. 8, don't write your own rules. 9, don't imitate evil. 10, do what is good. And since John is rather mature in his life, he finishes, I think, the whole book of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, or Big Bad John, if you will, can be summed up with this. We are called to keep on keeping on until God calls us home. So if you don't get anything else, keep on keeping on till God calls you home. The lesson is yours. If we can help you in any way, come as we stand and sing.